I'm Jay Leno. You know, it doesn't rain very often here in California, but when it does rain, that only means one thing: Dennis Gage is coming. Every time Dennis comes, it rains.
Rain Man.
Yeah, last time he was here, we had to do all stuff inside, but we might get a break today.
There could be, you know, I saw blue up there a little bit, just a touch,
little bit.
You know.
Well, today I want to talk about, I think, one of the most exciting cars of all time. Another Indiana-built car, the Cord 812. This was Gordon Bury's. Originally, this was going to be the baby Duesenberg. That was his original concept.
Were they actually going to call it a Duesenberg?
They were going to call it a Duesenberg at one time. Because the idea was, I think Cord had this whole General Motors thing. Duesenberg at the top, like Cadillac, then Cord or Auburn, like Oldsmobile or Buick, then down to Auburn, like your Chevrolet, that kind of deal. Mm-hmm. It never quite came to fruition. It has a 288 cubic inch Lycoming engine. 288.6. I know there are a lot of purists out there that get a little crazy with it. A Flathead 8 built specifically for this car. Front wheel drive, a lot of innovations. Has a thing called a Start X, which starts the car automatically if it stalls, and you start it by pushing in the clutch. It's front wheel drive, as I said. It's got this vacuum shift transmission. It's got a pre-selector box, and it's a car that was built on a budget. There was no money.
Yeah,
so consequently,
even though this was an ultra high-end mark, you know, in Duesenberg and all that, but there was no money at that time.
But you know, you find that every time somebody builds a supercar, they have no money.
They have no money.
Bugatti's really the only one that built a supercar that had money. Everybody else kind of scrapes nickels and dimes and puts together what they can to build their supercar. Everything on this car was done on the cheap, and I don't mean that, I just mean inexpensively, not poorly done. It just means there was no money. For example, when they road tested the car, the brakes overheated, and there was no way. Well, they couldn't come up with new brake drums, so they just drilled these holes, which would become iconic because everybody loves to look at that wheel cover.
But that's why?
And that's why,
just
to cool the brakes, yeah. But when this thing hit the auto shows, people just freaked.
Well, it looks so Euro. You know?
Yeah, like we said, it's the most European American car ever built, certainly up to this time. Let's open the hood and take a look underneath.
So much Art Deco detail, even these.
It really is
even these
Art
are
Deco.
So Deco.
So you remember which one of these it is here? Hang on.
It's in there somewhere. Oh, there it is. Wow.
There you go.
So it's a V8, and she's mounted the other way around, right?
Mounted the other way around, that's correct.
backwards.
But this car was not restored by us. This was restored by a man called Arthur Perry. Let me get you his picture right here. This is, I took this down to show. I bought it from him. This is one of those greatest generation guys, you know, old Italian guy, one of those generation of guys that didn't go to engineering school, but just had that innate sense of how things worked and how mechanical things were put together. And he restored this car years ago, and he passed away, and I bought it. That's his wife, Helen. I bought it from his sons.
Now, what's this thing up here?
Okay, that's your transmission. That's your vacuum shift.
Oh, that is?
Yeah,
That's kind of weird.
And if you had any kind of vacuum leak problem,
you ain't shifting.
You're not shifting. Plugs are easy to get to.
Yeah, and it's a Lycoming engine, is that correct?
Lycoming engine, 288.6 cubic inches.
Yeah, it's and beautiful restoration on it, too.
Oh, yeah, he did just a great job. Just a great job. It's just almost like a car of the future for 1930.
Well, interior-wise, it's just gorgeous, too. I mean, it's so, you know.
It's snug. In fact, competing car dealers, Ford and Chevy and Oldsmobile dealers would always...
Were they dinging it?
Well, they would always get some oversized person struggling to get, you know, to show how uncomfortable the car was and how awful it was to get in.
That's terrible.
A terrible car.
But I noticed when you opened it, the other thing that's kind of interesting is how little space there is here.
Yeah, not a lot of space.
You know,
not a lot of
space. You do have to kind of sneak in there.
And Mr. Perry, he made that down. That's actually quite clever. That's not a factory option. He put that on there. I think it's just one of the most beautiful cars ever. And it just looks like a custom car. Of course, it's not.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's not raining right now.
So
it will, I'm sure it will, but...
Let's take it for a ride. There's a break in the rain. We'll take it out and see how she goes.
Welcome back to My Classic Car.
Cord was probably the most European American car ever built, certainly up to the 30s. These were not popular because nobody knew how to fix them. And they were a little finicky.
Well,
new
they're real
from the
different. I
factory.
mean, this was a front-wheel drive car.
Front-wheel drive car, a thing called a Stardex.
So it's almost akin to the Buick gas
Similar.
pedal starter.
Yeah, you have a pre-selector. You do that, pre-select your gear, push the clutch in. The next gear I'm going to want is third. Okay, pre-select it, and you go. But see, you can keep your hands on the wheels while you shift.
Now, E.L. Cord was actually the guy that sort of aggregated the companies, didn't he?
Yeah, Cord was not an automobile guy.
He was a businessman.
He was a businessman.
Yeah.
And he made his money as a young man. There was the, I think it was the Auburn Car Company. Auburn had a bunch of cars they couldn't sell.
Mm-hmm.
He came in, 26 years old, painted them wild colors, yellow and black, and you know, all kinds of things like that. Sold them all. They made him president of the company. Okay, release the handbrake.
Apply the foot brake. Okay,
Okay,
clutch in.
Put the clutch in. Okay, move it over into first. Okay, and go.
Just regular clutch setup.
Go ahead. Yeah.
What's the clutch is right there too.
Yeah.
All right, now.
Now just pre-select second. Don't touch the clutch. Just put it in second.
And then
Now,
push-
anytime you want to shift, just hold the clutch in.
and I heard it.
Okay, release the clutch. And continue motoring.
Oh, lovely. Oh, this is very nice.
It's nice to drive, isn't it?
It is.
Pre-selectors are quite popular, but they were heavy. So consequently for racing and high-speed work, they weren't much.
Welcome back to My Classic Car.
You know, since Dennis the Rain Man Gage is here today, we took the cord out and it started to rain, so we came back. Because you don't want to drive classic cars in the rain unless you have to. And we're trying to think of some theme, so we thought we'd do Cars of Indiana. This is a premiere. This is a car almost nobody knows about.
I didn't know about it.
I didn't really know about them until I found this one.
But did you knew that Indiana was the largest car producing state?
Yeah,
at one
Indiana
time.
rivaled Detroit,
Yeah.
and some of our greatest cars came out of Indiana. If you lived in Detroit, this was a foreign car because it was made in another state. Foreign cars, but just a big T-head, luxurious, extremely well-built car, massive engine, but like a lot of old cars, parts break. This car was put away in the late 70s, early 80s, because what had happened was the water pump had rotted out, the radiator had gone, you see. I mean, we open this up, it's all just corroded inside, and consequently, well, you go drive around junkyards trying to find a water pump from a Premier.
Good luck.
Ain't gonna happen. So this is where technology actually helps the old car hobby. You know, it's easier now to get parts for these old cars than it was even 30, 40 years ago.
Because you can create them.
Because you can create them.
Yeah.
And what we have a thing here we call the 3D printer. If you've been on my website, you've seen this. And what we do is we scan this in the computer, we build up metal where we want a little bit more, and the 3D printer will make us an exact copy like this here. You see? All this part that's rotted out. In the computer, we put extra metal in, and then we made it like this, and your impeller goes inside. Boom, and there you
All
go.
goes back together. And this is some sort of polymer, some plastic?
This is plastic, and then you take it to a guy, and he'll make it for you out of aluminum. Okay, you saw the part in plastic?
Yeah.
Here it is in metal. The guys designed it on the computer. We took it to a guy, he made it for us. We now have a brand new 1914 water pump for a Premier car. A car that was off the road, not usable anymore, can now be driven and used again.
And this way you can also, with that prototyping, I imagine you can test fit and stuff and see if you're
For
right,
example,
tweak a little bit.
we made some mistakes on this cover. We're going to make another cover. We made it too thin.
Yeah.
So if you put some more metal in there to strengthen it up, and we're going to cast a new cover, a nice finish one. But that's basically it. And we'll put that on the car, and we'll take it for a ride. You'll see how it goes.
How's it do in the rain?
We'll find out. A car that hasn't run in 30 years. Let's see how it goes.
So is this Premier original, or is this thing been redone?
Well, no, it's not original. It's sort of almost, it's old enough to be second generation old again. It was restored, I think, in the early 50s, mid 50s, and used as an antique car. Somebody put plain bearings instead of Babbitt bearings in it. Somebody also put, let me show you on the other side here. People back in the 50s, when they were restoring these cars, weren't as concerned about originality as we are today. So he updated the ignition by updating, that's Pierce Arrow 12, something from the 30s. So it was a 14, it was updated to a more modern ignition by the 30s. So if anybody looked at that, they think that was original, because that's also 70 years old.
It looks pretty old.
Pretty old, but no, but other than that, it's all stock, engine, transmission, wheels, tires, electrical system, all that is pretty much as it was.
I mean, people can really, I mean, you could go cruising in this thing.
Oh, yeah,
with the whole
that's what
fam
it
could
was.
go.
I mean, and you know, it starts and drives like a modern car. I drive it in traffic. You have to be a bit careful. It's got the anti-stop brakes on it.
It's not that much for brakes, but...
No, not much for brakes, just a two-wheel rear brakes, but that's okay. But it's quite comfortable, you know, commanding view of the road. One of the nicest shifting cars. As soon as we get that water pump on, we'll take it around the block and you can drive and see what it's like. But geez, it's just a nice driving car.
Well, and it's, I mean, it's big.
It is a big
car. It's long,
car.
it's tall.
But this is the size cars were back in the day. It wasn't big for its day, but it was a big car.
Stay close. Jay lets me get behind the wheel of the Premier. Welcome back to My Classic Car.
This is a pretty straightforward, basic car, nothing particularly innovative. Big, heavy chassis, big, durable motor, big, strong transmission, you know, bulletproof electrics, big, giant generator and starter. This is a real, dependable luxury car. But see, you're cruising along at a nice speed. I mean, this is a great tour car, you know, because it'll just run forever. It doesn't overheat. But you know, if you stay off the highway, you can drive it around as a normal car. It's very dependable.
Well, you run through the gears very normally.
It shifts wonderfully. But you can keep up with modern traffic, no problem. I like T-head engines. You know, they're big, torquey, low revving.
Are they typically dual plug like this?
Yeah, most were dual plug, yeah.
Big mistake letting Dennis drive. This is a huge mistake on mine.
They didn't have tilt columns back then, did they?
They did have the Fat Man wheel. You ever seen a Fat Man wheel?
It kind of flips this way, right?
Yeah. I like the politically incorrectness of it. The Fat Man wheel.
Run up the mountain down.
I would say the equivalent is maybe driving a early 50s pickup truck. You know, like a Ford, an early Ford 150 or one of those Chevy trucks. That's a bit what it would feel like, I think, if you were watching this at home. What's it like to drive? Because it's sturdy and it's strong, but
it does do that, yeah.
Hey, pal, how you doing? You like that horn?
So hey, we went out cruising, the sun even came out. It's lunchtime. I don't know about this Rain Man thing. Let's eat chicken.
Next week, we're heading to Nissan's North American headquarters in Franklin, Tennessee for the Z-Car Convention. These little sports cars from the other side of the earth first hit the scene in 1970 and are still cool today. Plus, we'll look at the latest gear to upgrade the sound system in your ride.
So until our next meeting, remember, honor the timeless classics. I'm Dennis Gage. Happy motoring.